You talked about being on the right path. Have you looked at the federal budget and gone, you know what? Chalmers is making decisions that are going to set us on the right path forward? Or is he making the same mistakes that Labor made last time and that Morrison made the time before that? Is this another repeat cycle that's going to keep sending us down?
Well, other than the slow drift into, let's be polite and call it corporatism, other than that slow drift that Chalmers is taking us on, what really marks this budget is its lack of any willingness to even admit the problem or even start going down the path. Look, Australia is in a productivity slump. We're in a per capita recession. Productivity is no higher now than it was 8 years ago. That means you go back through the ABS statistics, there's never been a longer period of productivity slump since we started getting the statistics. Chalmers does nothing about productivity. He doesn't even say the word productivity in his budget speech, or as far as I can tell in the budget papers. He does a little smoke and mirrors trick, talks about budget policies that were introduced a year ago or 2 years ago. Or you notice he spent a lot of his budget speech talking about the tax cuts that are coming in July this year, which were legislated more than 5 years ago. That is not new to this budget. But he's pointing to a bunch of other things because there wasn't really much in this budget. And it was totally silent on productivity for reform. So my primary complaint with this budget is not so much what he's done. That is bad enough as it is, right? He hasn't taken steps forward. He's taken little shuffles backwards. But there's no hint that they're even aware of the productivity problem. There's no even start down that path of fixing the productivity problem. And that's worrying, because if we don't fix that, that's the only thing that drives real wage increases. Yeah, well, if we want to see higher wages without higher prices, we have to fix productivity.
Yeah, well, I noticed that journalists everywhere are absolutely struggling to find headlines to get clicks for this budget because there's, apart from the $300 energy bill, which we'll talk about in a minute, it's just an uninteresting spread of things. There's nothing in there that you can point to and go, oh, look, wonderful headline, let's run this. It's so boring. It's like listening to Albanese do a press conference for half an hour. You fall asleep trying to get through it. But look, we've just seen the digital ID creep toward law. We've got the misinformation and disinformation bill doing the same thing. And all of these policies are massively increasing both the power and the size of the state. And as the state expands, so too does the burden it places on taxpayers to cover the bill. Now, a big state both reduces productivity and competes against those who survive. It's like a sickness that comes over society. So has the federal budget accounted for the policies it is about to implement, which will have an enormous impact on productivity in the current economy, or are they just assuming that it'll be business as usual?
This isn't just limited to the current government. I worry that our country has got a little bit used to productivity growth being automatic. You don't have to do anything, you don't have to try, just some sort of productivity fairy sprinkles it on the economy and you get wage increases every year. And I think we've got used to it because during the 90s, a bit under Hawke and Keating and Howard, there was some productivity reform that put the country on a decent path. I think we kind of got used to it. We started assuming it's normal. It's only normal if there's a productivity reform. It's only normal if you have low enough taxes to encourage the investment and innovation that drives productivity. So I think we've lost that driver of productivity, but still a lot of people, including the current government, but not limited to them, are still living as if they can just sort of skate through on the proceeds of previous reform. And I worry that's not going to work medium term. And I don't see them even having a hint of understanding that they are the government. It's their responsibility to kickstart a new productivity agenda. Not just to wait till it's spontaneously popular and then just follow the crowd. They need to build the case and prosecute the case for productivity reform, deregulation, tax cuts, and structural reform to get the budget and the economy rolling again.
I didn't hear many of those words in Chalmers' speech. John, you reblogged this video with Jordan Peterson. Have a quick watch.
Dr. Peterson, why are you such a Luddite? Why don't you embrace artificial intelligence and facial recognition and massive computer surveillance and cameras on every street corner so that we could all be safer?
Well, because there's tremendous danger and too much security. If the emerging collusion between government and corporation, gigantic corporation, continues in the manner that it is continuing, there won't be anything that you do that can't be used against you and will be used against you in very short order. And the concerns that are expressed here about the local consequences of that, let's say with regards to January 6th, seem to me to fail to take into account the much broader threat that lurks underneath that everyone should be attending to. We're in danger of eliminating the private sphere entirely.
Now, this is not fear-mongering from Jordan Peterson. I believe this is a realistic and prescient comment about our near future. So my question to you is, what happens to an economy when the private sector is eliminated, or at the very least, greatly constrained?
Yeah, look, this comes down to understanding the difference between being pro-business and pro-market, not just going and finding an existing business person and backing them. What the market needs is it needs 1,000 ideas to bloom, some of which will be bad ideas. You need to allow that to happen. That's how you find the good ideas. When you throw 10 ideas against the wall, 9 of them are probably dumb, some of them may be offensive, and 1 of them is genius. And you allow them to go out there, and 9 of the ideas fail, and some people get a bad reputation. But that's how you foster innovation. People talking, swapping ideas, swapping stupid ideas, finding out what works in the marketplace of ideas and the marketplace of actual business, allowing them to start a small business and grow that way. So you're absolutely right to note that there is a link between culture and this dynamic market economy. You need a culture of freedom to promote real dynamism in the market economy. And as that freedom slowly gets stifled, and by the way, also regulated to death, you wouldn't be surprised to see less private business investment, and private business investment has been in a slump for the last 10 years. And fewer new businesses starting and more of them failing, and that's what we're seeing. So it is a worry. It's a multifaceted worry. As you say, just that the culture of freedom matters, and so does the regulation on small business to allow just small businesses to start up easier. Whether they've got a good or bad idea, let them start up, and if it's a bad idea, they'll fail, but let them start.
Not just a culture of freedom, but a culture of hope. You need dreamers and risk takers if you want to have people, entrepreneurs and business owners. Otherwise, I mean, after COVID, I know a lot of business people who used to have their small businesses, who put their whole lives into it, and they said, you know what, never again. I'm going to live off the government for the rest of the time because I've put my entire life into this and the government just shut me overnight. So you have to have a solid base to work from. Otherwise, you're never going to get dreamers and freedom lovers. But look, we've only got about 30 seconds left, so I'm going to give you a free kick. The $300 energy handout, good or bad?
Kind of boring, quite frankly. It's a one-off payment, so it's not a structural reform. And look, what they're trying to do is to trick the RBA into thinking inflation is lower than it is. But RBA is not going to be tricked, and the government knows the RBA is not going to be tricked. So I'm left kind of scratching my head. They're trying to fool somebody. It's not the RBA. Maybe it's us, the voters, they're trying to fool, because the policy isn't going to work.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here on Spectator TV. It was lovely to have you.
Thank you very much.